All right, Little Legends, The Spell Thief by Tom Percival. Chapter 8, Spelling Trouble. Over the next few days, Jack returned to see Lily many times. In fact, he was seeing more of her than anyone else. Every time Jack visited her, Lily traded a spell for one of his memories, but every time, something went wrong. After the truth spell, Jack had tried a mind-reading spell. He had been convinced that if he could see what Anansi was thinking, he'd be able to catch him lying. But as it happened, he hadn't even got close to Anansi. Lily hadn't explained that Jack would be able to read the minds of every single living thing. It was just too much, hundreds of different people, all at the same time, thinking things like, I'm hungry, or I feel a little tired, but usually, how about a nice cup of tea? As if that wasn't bad enough, he could hear all the animals' thoughts, too. They tended to run along the lines of, that's a tasty looking worm, and I wonder why that bird is looking at me like that, usually followed by, arg, I'm being eaten by a bird. Jack had made it as far as the edge of town before he had given up and run off somewhere to be completely alone. Even then, he could hear a depressed earwig wishing that it hadn't been born as wishing that it had been born as a tiger instead. The next spell gave Jack hypnotic powers. Lily told him that all he had to do was look into someone's eyes and they would be completely hypnotized for 8 hours. Jack had gulped the potion in one foul-tasting gulp. But there was no tingling feeling, no flash of lightning or puff of smoke. As soon as his mom had left for work, he took the quickest possible peek in a mirror, just to see if he could tell if it was actually working. Jack stared and stared at his reflection until he didn't even feel like he was standing in front of a mirror anymore. Instead, he was diving down through shining pools of light and drifting along in a warm, relaxing world with no sense of time or space. The next thing he knew, his mom was opening the door as she came home at the end of the day. He felt incredibly hungry and had been drooling down the front of his sweater. Hello, Jack, his mom called out with a smile. You look like you've stood there all day. Make me a cup of tea, would you, love? I'm parched. Nearly a week had passed since Anansi first arrived in Tailtown, and Jack and Betsy had come back to see Lily again. He floated sadly in the underwater cave. I just don't get it, he exclaimed. It's like none of the others can see what Anansi is up to. They all think he's the best thing that ever happened. Why can't they see the truth? It is just so obvious. What? Squawked Betsy quietly. Of course it's obvious, exclaimed Jack, looking over to Lily. I'm with Betsy, said Lily. After all, you don't even know for sure that he's a troll spy. Why don't you just try being friends with him? Then you could ask him what's going on. Jack snorted loudly. What? Friends? With Anansi? He's a spy. I saw him talking to that troll in the woods, remember? If he really was a troll, said Lily, or working with the trolls, don't you think he'd have done something by now? What? Agreed Betsy, nodding her head. So you're both on his side now, too, is that it? Don't be silly, replied Lily. It's just, well, I spent a long time not having many friends myself. She looked a bit sad. Apart from you, I really don't have any normal friends, so I feel a little sorry for this boy, all on his own, miles away from home. He is a troll spy, stated Jack. And that's all there is to it. You're going to start running out of memories if you keep buying spells, Jack, said Lily sadly. Why not quit while you're ahead? But I'm not ahead, am I? Said Jack. So I would like to buy another spell, please, if you'd be so kind. Lily rolled her eyes. I suppose you could try a magic mirror. I've got one that reveals the true nature of whoever looks into it. Perfect, Jack grinned. I'll take it. Jack was flying a kite with his mom and dad up on a big hill outside Tailtown. His parents were arm in arm and smiling. Jack looked up at them and felt a warm glow inside. A strong gust of wind suddenly swept down, snapping at the string and carrying the kite far out to sea. Jack felt a pang of sadness. Then his dad smiled and took an old handkerchief out of his pocket. He bound it to some twigs and reattached it to the broken string. Moments later, the makeshift kite was dancing in the sky once more. For a moment, the memory lingered in Jack's mind. Then it vanished, as though it had never been there. Jack cackled himself as he waited for Red, Anansi, and the others to walk past. The cackle had caught him by surprise. Now that he heard himself doing so, he felt uncomfortable. It was a bit like a normal laugh, but with all the fun and enjoyment sucked out of it. It wasn't a nice sound. Betsy looked at Jack for a long time. She didn't say anything, but somehow Jack could tell she wasn't happy. "What?" he asked. But Betsy just bent down to peck at the floor angrily. After a short wait, Jack saw his friends walking toward him. Lily had wrapped the mirror up so he didn't accidentally reveal anyone else's true nature to them. Just as Anansi was getting close, Jack pulled out the mirror, but he was holding it the wrong way. Staring back at Jack from the mirror's glassy surface was a boy with red hair. At first glance, the boy looked just like him. Then, as Jack looked closer, he noticed a cold, hard glint in the boy's tired eyes. The boy stared back at Jack with such a sad loneliness that Jack gasped. Was that really him? "Jack!" Anansi's voice rang out. "What are you doing?" As Jack spun around, the mirror slipped from his fingers and fell to the floor, shattering into tiny pieces. "Are you all right?" asked Anansi, rushing over to help. Jack shooed him away and tried to pick up the pieces, desperate to see if they would still work. But all the jagged little shards reflected now was a normal scene. "Jack," Anansi said quietly, bending down to look at Jack's eye. "I don't know what you're up to, but I do know a magic mirror when I see one." Jack's eyes widened as Anansi continued. "Whatever it is that you think you know, I'd just forget about it if I were you." Jack jumped up angrily. "You might have them fooled," he snarled, nodding at Red and the others, "but not me." Then he turned and ran off, with Betsy flapping after him.